Chapter 12. Subtle Sabotage. Some folks might not understand, but being sent on an agricultural detachment was fine with me. I had a farming background and had always tolerated outdoor labor quite well. The problem was that working in the fields also meant working for the Germans, producing food for enemy soldiers who were killing my countrymen. But with no real choice, human survival needs kick in. We kept our mouths shut and our heads down as we loaded the crude horse-drawn carts and driven into the country. We soon learned that our farm was actually a large estate, over 2,500 morgens. One morgen is a little over an acre in size. It was owned by a baron who had, reluctantly I'm sure, turned the land over to Hitler's war effort. The thought was that we were aiding and abetting the enemy because of the urgent topic of discussion. I can't recall who suggested or if it was just a consensus reaction to our situation, but all of us agreed from the beginning we would do little as we could to keep from being executed for insubordination, but would be, as often as we could, engage in subtle acts of sabotage. In order to achieve minimum food production, we accidentally spilled some milk as we carried our pails from the milk house. We missed some of the grain as we cut the ripe sheaves. We inadvertently left some of the potato crop to rot in the fields. The remarkable thing is that we were prisoners, yes, but we had a lot of freedom and space. We had only 2 guards, one of whom was called the inspector, and he had one arm, having lost the other in one of the early battles of the war. The other guard was an old man, too feeble to fight in Hitler's army, but tried to escape, was foolhardy and doomed to failure. We did not know how to escape. We did not know the area and had no hope of finding assistance from the local population. Danzig was the closest city, 40 miles, but it might have been 40 million. There was no talk of escape. We had heard during our brief stay in Hammerstein that things were not going well for the Germans, and we all agreed that it was only a matter of time. Stay put, do as we were told, stick together, and wait for liberation. After a few days on the farm, I settled into a routine that was not much different from my teen years back on the farm in Wisconsin. We got up at 3 every morning when most of the POWs began milking the farm's 100 or so cows by hand, of course. A few of us were responsible for the care of our power equipment, 48 huge, magnificent Belgian draft horses. I liked caring for the horses, but my hands got so calloused from combing and currying them that they became tougher than the Belgian horsehide. While my daylight to dusk hours were filled with hard work, I found the nights lonely, and my thoughts always turned to my family so far away. By the end of April, before I had means to write another letter home, and in it I couldn't help but mention how I longed for my days when I had received my mother's letters on a fairly regular basis. April 29th, 1944. Dear Mother, Dad, Carol, Alice, and Leroy, I will tonight drop you a few lines to let you know I am all right. I hope and pray that you are all the same. On Saturday night, I sure do wish I was there to spend it with you. What is Leroy doing? Tell him from me to save us money and behave well. Will you tell Elaine that I'm all right and wish the same to her? How is Grandma Johnson? I can write all you want. You can write all you want. It's exactly 2 months tonight since I wrote a letter. It's over 3 months now since I've been captured, and I should be getting some mail soon. I sure do miss your letters, Mother. Tell Dad to write and tell me about his hunting trip. I have to close for now. With all my love, Gerhard. From the beginning, I've rationed my allowance of letters and postcards between Elaine and my immediate family. Sometimes I double-dipped, asking my mother to pass on news to Elaine or vice versa. I sent completely transparent hints that I wanted more mail from home. And finally, there it was, a precious letter from my mother. In it, she told me that she had written every week since my capture. I read her letter over and over and then responded, wondering if she'd ever get mine. May 28th, 1944. Dear Mother, I received a letter from you today, so I'm going to write you a few lines to let you know that I am in good health and hope and pray the same to you. Today is also Memorial Day here in Germany, and it's a wonderful day. I suppose you're all down at Grandma's today. I sure wish I was there. 2 of the boys here got mail from home last week, so I expect some mail from home, but since it took 4 months to get here. But Carol and Alice? How are Carol and Alice? I sure wish I could see them. I bet they've grown up. I think of you every day. How's Grandma Johnson? Tell her hello for me. Will you write to Elaine, Mother? All my love, your son, Gerardo. After a while, the letters would arrive during the week, but usually it was Sunday that we were treated to news from home. In reality, it was often months old. Sunday, being a day of rest, predominantly Christian Germany, was also the best and worst time for work for me. Best because it was a day we often got letters, and also for the chores we were pretty much free to do whatever we wanted. Worse because if there was no mail, there was ample time for self-pity, and the week ahead looked bleak and interminable. However, if I got mail or not, I always took the time to write one of my precious letters home. June 4, 1944. Dear Dad, I received a letter from you, so I'm going to write you a few lines to let you know that I'm all right, and hope and pray the same for you and all at home. Are you still working at Aldernon, doing carpenter work for Frederickson's home? Grandma Johnson, I hope she's all right. I wish I could get a letter from Elaine to find out how she is. Some of the boys I was captured with have got mail from home. Where's Leroy working now, Dad? I hope she has a good job. He has a good job and is taking care of his money. Well, I'm at the bottom, so I must close. Love, your son, Gerard. My stint at the POW convinced me that the human spirit is an amazing thing. You can get used to almost anything if you have to. I slept in a barn where were infested with lice and had little contact with the outside world. I had very little to eat, subsisting on a diet of sawdust brown bread provided by the local baker, potatoes, cottage cheese, stolen eggs, and a little milk if we could manage to filch some while doing our daily chores. Looking back, I can see that despite having to live in subhuman conditions, I was nevertheless fully human, skilled at making adaptations to improve the quality of life. I lived one day at a time, suffering from hunger, loneliness, longing for freedom and a family, but learning to savor those priceless moments when I reread my letters from home, opened a package to find some precious cigarettes or warm mittens, enjoyed the friendships of men committed to a common cause. Thinking back 6 decades later, I suppose if it weren't for being constantly suffering from hunger, loneliness, and fatigue, it wouldn't have been the worst way to spend my time in captivity. I was managing, settling in, practicing patience, and getting along pretty well. Still, the agonizing thought that Elaine might meet someone else, fall in love, and get married while I was gone tormented me and would just not go away.